Hey everyone. I'll wait a few more minutes for people to show up, but so the intent is we talk less today than we did on Monday. Okay, I think we have quorum. So today is Wednesday, my dudes. Today is Wednesday, February 27th. And
You are mute, or is it just me?
can you hear me okay? It might be me. Yeah, okay. So Hannes, it's Hannes. Let me try this again. Where was I? Okay, yes, it's Wednesday, my dudes. Today is Wednesday, February 27th. This is the Kubernetes 114 release team Burndown meeting. We're all going to be publicly recorded and so be on our best behavior according to the Kubernetes code of conduct. So now that we're in Burndown, I anticipate we probably want to trim our meeting notes template a little bit. I'll paste a link to that in the chat here if you need handy access to it. But I think Burndown generally means let's start paying a lot more attention to the numbers and see if they're headed in the right direction. And if they're not headed in the right direction, what are the particular issues or pull requests that you specifically are having problems with? So with that, the only issue that I have a problem with right now is I really need some fun, inventive memes to talk about code freeze. So if anybody has any ideas or suggestions, I will welcome any and all takers. My hope was to have a bunch of them to flash up in front of the community during tomorrow's community meeting update. If you leave it up to me, you're just going to get a bunch of boring brace yourself memes. So that's pretty much all that I have concretely. Claire, do you want to talk to us about enhancements?
Sure. So I'll keep it brief. The only change from Monday is 2 additional enhancements were deferred, just because they didn't think they'd be ready for the 114 date. Yeah. And with that, one of those enhancements was one that did not have a resolve or implementable KEP. So now we're at 32 enhancements with KEPs for the release.
Okay, cool. There was one I had a question about, but I'll come back to it. Maria, do you want to talk to us about CI signal?
Sounds good. Hello. So quick run through numbers at the moment as of 5 minutes ago. So we're looking at 3 master blocking jobs, 5 master upgrades, and 3 114 blocking jobs failing at the moment. There's good news about use. Good news is that most of them, the vast majority of them, are fairly new. So we have had consistently quite good activity, quite good thread ownership from the SIGs to go ahead and troubleshoot them, with the exception of a couple that I'm working through today. Of these failures, the ones that are top of my mind and I've sort of prioritized is the one on diff resources. The TLDR there is that there is a change in SIG storage's code base that means that resources are leaked. They do have a PR open, which has quite good activity at the moment, so I'm monitoring it for now. But it's one that has been failing across dashboards for quite a while, which is why it's top of mind for me. And then coincidentally also sig storage some failures for their in3 volumes upgrade tests. Things that I mentioned on Monday but haven't got further updates just yet, but haven't forgotten about, is look through test plans and see if there's anything in terms of CI signal that we don't feel comfortable with. And then I'd like to do better jobs of decomposing issues that we've opened around flakes. A quick 10-second TLDR here is that we've been opening issues for flakes that have been sort of like composite in a way, so different tests from different SIGs failing at any one time, so it's made it quite hard to actually point somebody to it and enable them to fix it. And just a couple of heads up, I've started using critical urgent priority label for things that A, have been failing for a while, and 2, are failing across different dashboards, or they're giving us red for different sets of suites. And also, as you may have seen in the CI signal report today, there is now a board of issues that you can look at. It's at the project board that we experimented with. I'll add the link to the minutes, and that's just a way for folks that are not on the team to sort of like have an idea of what it is that we're looking at any one time. Any questions? Monologue over.
So just to recap, you've got the diff resources thing under control, or you feel like that's under control?
I think so. I mean, I just checked before the call. It seems that there's a plan for a solution, and the last activity was about an hour ago. So it doesn't feel, I'd be very worried if it was stuck somewhere or just not having anything happening around it. Okay. The main reason why I'm worried is just because it's replicated in many different dashboards. Let me link the issues so that there's a bit more detail.
That's cool. I'm just looking at the dashboard now and trying to look at the jobs as well. So how are we feeling about upgrade jobs? I feel like there's a lot of red going on there.
The upgrade ones I'm slightly more worried about compared to diff resources. The reason for that is, one, yes, it has been failing, but also it hasn't, in one of the dashboards, it hasn't run since the weekend when it experienced timeouts. So this is actually like top of my mind for me to go back to SIG storage and see if they can help out with it.
Which job is that?
That was, I believe, upgrade. No, it's not upgrade cluster. It is in. So in test grid, it's called GC new master upgrade cluster new, I believe.
Okay.
I can't remember the proud job name, but I can find the issue that we opened that has all the information.
Okay. My gut tells me that historically upgrade jobs have always been failing. At this point in the release cycle, I can't remember. But the fact that almost all of them are failing is not super great. So I agree, in terms of priority, I'd be focusing on getting the release faster blocking dashboard back to green. And so diff resources is definitely the worst offender there. It looks like something caused the alpha features job to recently start failing, so maybe that's a really easy bisect. But yeah, anything I can do to help out there, let me know. I feel like it's time to start chasing after people. My plan is to show this during the community meeting and make sure that for everything that's big, bright, and red and could be blocking us during code freeze, that I know that somebody's actually working on it.
Yeah, and to be fair, sig storage has been very responsive in this release, which is like makes me feel very optimistic about it. It's just a bit worrying to see red, that's all.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, do we have anybody from the bug triage team here?
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, Nick, do you want to talk to us about how bug triage has been going?
Yeah, so this week we're really starting our work in earnest. Before I've talked about the fact that we kind of had a bit of a lull compared to the other groups. So Nico has begun triaging some of the bugs, hence, good. That's the name of our group. And then given us shadows the some examples of what he's looking for, and so what we can do. And we have a spreadsheet that we're using to go through the triage. So I believe me and my team are going to begin really going through this now. And that's really about all we can say at the moment.
Okay, just to reiterate what we talked about at the release team meeting on Monday, my gut tells me we don't actually have the 114 milestone on all of the issues that we should have that milestone on. And this is the time where it's important to err on the side of more issues having that milestone than not. So the CI signal issues are definitely super obvious and should always be tagged as 114 at this point. If they're blocking the release, they're relevant to the release. Other issues, it can be a little bit tougher to understand. If you've noticed, Kubernetes, much as we've tried to tell people to use other channels for support, still ends up receiving a lot of issues that are like, hey, I experienced this one random failure on my one random cluster at this one version at this one point in time. Can you please take a look? And that may not necessarily be relevant to the release, but there are many other issues that get opened up that are incoming that may actually be relevant to the release. So this is really where the value of having humans watch the incoming queue and make sure it gets picked up and put into the milestone is important.
All right, thank you so much.
Amit, how is test infra going?
Hey, so I just had one big announcement that Kubernetes is now officially been replaced by Spyglass after the lazy consensus period. It's still there, so there's a link inside Spyglass if you want to use Kubernetes for some reason, but now all the links will go to Spyglass instead. And I also happened to query the number of PRs merged for the last 2 days since Monday, and it was 82. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. I didn't have time to show it yesterday, and I don't have it prepped today, but for what it's worth, I'm starting to use DevStats to take a look at the relative rate of PR merges for this release cycle compared to the release cycle a year ago. It's kind of unfair to compare a Q1 release to a Q4 release because of the holiday slump in Q4. And then it's kind of unfair to compare it to a Q3 release because we're coming up from a slump as well. But I would anticipate a large spike of activity in the next week based on what I've seen before. I'll try and have that ready to show on Friday. And Spyglass is awesome. Please, if you use it and you find there's something weird, open issues, give feedback in SIG testing. We're super appreciative of that. Is Lindsay or Jeff or Dave here to talk about release notes?
Hi, I'm here. I just dropped a message in the chat because I'm in transit, so connectivity might be limited. But we don't actually have much of an update since Monday. Jeff presented the release notes tool that he created, like the UI to the release team, or yeah, the sig-release, at the sig-release meeting yesterday, but that's pretty much all we have for now.
Okay, let's see here. And my usual question for you would be, has the release notes draft been updated? It looks like the answer is yes, it was updated 2 days ago. So thanks for that.
Yeah, it was updated for Monday. We could update it again today if you want us to.
I think that's okay. Personally, in my opinion, based on everything that Jeff has been talking about, I feel like he's gotten some broad agreement from folks that we should try and find a different way of doing things. And so if there is a concrete different way of doing things that's going to land as this markdown document, changes to that are welcome.
Okay.
I'll probably look to see, I'll probably ask that we have an update of this on Friday.
Sounds good.
Okay. I don't believe we have anybody from comms here. And so, Hannes, is your audio setup working now?
I hope so.
Yes, it
Does
is.
it work?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, computers, they are too hard for me. Well, we cut beta 1 yesterday with my shadow, with one of my shadows. Not much to say here, went smooth. One thing we did differently this time around, we added some screenshots of failing test grid stuff just before we were cutting. And my ask is to just check on that and let me know if it's useful. I have some ideas how this can be automated in the release process, basically.
Oh, wow. You put in like drop-down links and everything. That's amazing. Yeah, that's super appreciated. And if you do want to find ways to help automate it, come ping us on SIG testing. There's possibly a little known JSON-based API that you can use to get some of the summary information, but not so much the individual dashboards. So this looks cool.
Cool. Yeah, I probably will point or try to get some shadows on board and have them maybe do some stuff, but we will figure it out.
Okay. I feel like I saw some chatter or questions about like tags or files showing up in the right places for the beta. Is any of this ringing a bell for you?
Yes, there was some issue for Lubomir from
Yes.
SIG Cluster Lifecycle. I don't understand the full picture, but it seems like some Bazel job did not publish stuff where it should publish stuff. As far as I understand, that's not a problem with the release tooling, but I will try to catch up with Lubomir. He did not respond yet in Slack, but I think I will just check with him what the issue now really was. It seems to be resolved by a PR from him.
Okay.
But yeah, I will check on that.
Okay. Wow, this has like been one of the fastest burndowns ever. I hope they're always this fast, though. For what it's worth, my what I have seen historically is we start to dive into the details of some of these specific issues. So I appreciate that we're starting to talk about them, and I trust that you're going to go poke people, but I'll start asking more and more probing questions as it seems like the same problem keeps coming up and keeps not quite being resolved. Two things that came up on Monday that I've had some discussion about since then. One was, are we going to bump to Golang 1.12 or not? I talked about this at Monday, and I also talked about this at the sig-release meeting. Consensus, it appears to be we're not going to do it. Main reason being I look to SIG scalability for large changes like Golang or the etcd version or other stuff that could potentially impact performance. The 5,000 minute scalability jobs take some significant amount of time to run. So it's important to do these sorts of changes when everything is green and clean and quiet. And I feel like our window for doing that has effectively just passed. If we had had this happen a week ago, maybe a little more doable. And it's also kicked off an ongoing discussion of what to do about the version of Golang used to build earlier Kubernetes releases, which isn't so much of concern to this team, but just to let you know, Kubernetes 1.11 and 1.12 are now built using versions of Go that are no longer supported. This feels like a security risk because what happens if there's a CVE relevant to Golang that comes out and we need to address that? At that point, it seems like we're going to have to find a way to build our supported versions of Kubernetes using something. So there's that. The other thing was discussion around kubeadm. The existing set of jobs in release master blocking that exercise kubeadm are based on a subproject called Kubernetes Anywhere. And basically, the maintainers of Kubernetes Anywhere and the maintainers of kubeadm would like to stop using those jobs and would like to instead use a job based on kind that also uses kubeadm. There was concern expressed that this would lose coverage of the case where we're standing up a cluster with kubeadm and that cluster also has cloud provider capabilities. We feel as though cloud provider capabilities are sufficiently covered by the existing set of jobs on release master blocking, like all of the jobs that are stood with kubeup already exercise the cloud provider stuff. We feel like kind will sufficiently exercise kubeadm. It has already caught a number of kubeadm bugs in the past. And so I'll be working to sort of demote the kubeadm job to release informing and add the kind job to release informing to give us some amount of time to make sure that, yeah, for hysteresis purposes, we've actually gathered enough data that everything looks good. And then we can promote it to blocking next week before we enter code freeze. This is also reminding me that changes we're making to master probably also need to be ported to the other release branches. And so I'll make sure we have an issue open on that and possibly help out in shuffling around jobs. I know, Maria, you opened, I think, an issue about adding the COPS AWS job back to release master blocking, and I will work to resolve that today.
Sounds good.
Any other questions? Okay. Again, if you have any memes, I will gladly accept them. Please paste all memes related to code freeze in the sig-release channel. All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy Wednesday.